Hey! Today I'm going to show you how to transform a simple black skirt from a thrift store into a cute leather panel high-waisted skirt like this one. Okay, so for materials, you're going to need a plain black skirt, which you can get at your local thrift store, or if you have one lying around, you can use that. You'll need leather fabric, about a half a yard. You'll need 2 gold zippers. You'll need 1 regular zipper, a pair of scissors, a sewing machine, a button, a scrap piece of fabric which you'll use for your fly opening. You'll need a fabric marker. You'll need measuring tape and some pins. The first thing you want to do is you want to take your skirt and you want to turn it inside out, and you want to cut just below where the waistband is. If you don't have a waistband, you can skip this part. The next thing you want to do is you want to lay your skirt down flat, make sure it's still inside out, and you basically want to cut down the middle of the front of the skirt. In order to find the exact middle, what you want to do is you want to take both seams, so both sides of the skirt, and you want to connect them so that the seams line up. Once you do that, you'll be able to tell exactly where the middle of the skirt is. Then what you want to do is you want to make sure that everything is lined up accurately. So the bottom is lined up and the top is lined up, and you want to cut along one side of the skirt, either the left or the right, it doesn't matter, but just one side. So you should now have a long strip of fabric like this. Then you want to just fold it back into place so that it looks the way that it looked originally before we cut it, like so. Now what you want to do is you want to take your measuring tape and you want to measure a 1/2 inch from the edge of one side of the skirt. From the edge of this side, measure 1/2 inch and mark it off with your fabric marker. And you want to continue doing this all the way down this edge of the skirt. And when you finish, you want to do the same thing on the other edge of your skirt. Then you want to fold the edge of the skirt along the seam allowance line that we just made. And then you want to pin it down, and you want to repeat this step on the other edge of where the skirt opens. After you've finished pinning down the flaps, you want to just sew it into place. So remember to remove the pins as you go. And when you finish, it should look like this. To watch my tutorial on how to install the zipper fly, click here or check the description box below for more information. So now you want to take your measuring tape and you want to place it in the center of your knee, and you want to draw it all the way up to where the top of the skirt starts. Then you want to take your fabric marker and you want to place a mark alongside the measuring tape at the top of the skirt as well as at the bottom of the skirt. And these 2 marks will help you understand where the edge of your leather fabric needs to be placed. Now you want to take your measuring tape and you want to measure from the edge of where your zipper opens to the mark that you just made in the previous step. In my case, my measurement came out to be 3.5 inches. So what I did was I continued to make a mark 3.5 inches all the way down the skirt. And after I did this, I continued the same thing on the other side so that I would have 2 straight lines like this. Now you want to cut down both lines, and then you want to put aside the middle part of the skirt for later. Then you want to cut behind the seams so that once you cut those pieces off, the seam will be attached to the disconnected pieces. Don't throw the pieces away because we're going to use them in the next step. Take your leather fabric and fold it in half. You want to make sure that the leather side is in the inside of the fold. Now you want to take one of the pieces that we cut out from the skirt and you want to place it in the middle of the leather fabric that we just folded. Place it down on the leather fabric and trace it. After you trace the piece, you want to add seam allowance lines along this side of the pattern and this side of the pattern. In addition to adding the 2 seam allowance lines on the side of the patterns, I also added a 2 centimeter seam allowance line at the bottom of the pattern in order to continue the same seam allowance that was on the original skirt. Now you want to pin down the pattern that you just traced, and then you want to cut it out. When you finish, you should have 2 pieces like this. Remember to add your seam allowance lines to the other piece of the leather panel that you cut out. So take the back piece of the skirt and lay it flat with the inside of the skirt facing up. Connect the back of the skirt with the front of the leather panel. Make sure that the top of the skirt and the top of the panel are lined up. Pin the pieces together and sew. Repeat this step with the other panel. Your skirt should now look like this. Lay your skirt down with the right side facing up, then lay down the middle panel with the right side facing down. Connect and pin together one of the leather panels to one side of the middle panel and sew. Follow this same step with the other panel. Make sure that you line up the top of the leather panel with the top of the middle panel. This is what your skirt should look like when both panels are sewn. Now what you want to do is you want to hem the bottom of the skirt. So pin down the edges of the skirt, and then when you're finished, fold the skirt inside out and then sew. I didn't want this video to be too long, so I made another video on how to install an exposed zipper. So if you'd like to learn how to do it, just click on the screen. Otherwise, keep watching. Try your skirt on and decide where you'd like the top of your skirt to start. Then measure the circumference. Be sure to leave a little bit of space for your thumb underneath the measuring tape. This is to ensure that the top of your skirt won't be too tight. Cut a strip of leather fabric that should have a length of the previous measurement taken before. Remember to add a 1/2 inch seam allowance to both ends of the strip of fabric. So in my case, my strip is 32 inches and it includes the 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides of the fabric. The width of my strip is 2.5 inches, but you can decide how wide you want your waistband to be. Just make sure that when you fold your strip in half horizontally, that you have enough space to attach your button. Now you want to pin down the ends of the strip of fabric and hem along the seam allowance lines that you made previously. Now take the leather strip and lay it so that it is wrong side facing up. Pin the leather strip to the top of the skirt going all the way around the skirt and then sew. It should look like this after you finish pinning. Now you want to sew along the top of the skirt. Remember to remove the pin. This is what your skirt should now look like. Now turn your skirt inside out, fold the waistband over and pin it down all around the skirt and then sew. Okay, so then after that, you basically want to insert your button, and I just put the middle of my button, I lined it up with where the zipper is, and then the buttonhole, I put it about maybe like 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the opening, and you obviously want to put your button down, and you want to measure how wide it is so that you know how wide to make your buttonhole. And that's about it. If you need help with installing a button and installing a buttonhole, leave me a comment and I will respond to you. All right, and zip it up, button it up, and it looks like that, and that is your skirt.